I, there's just a small issue about the role of the president, but that can be dealt with on a case-by-case basis because the Supreme Court was not unanimous on it. Yes. So the fundamental question is that Kenyans have a chance once again, affirmed by the Supreme Court, that they can debate constitutional reform and they can actually amend the constitution. And that there is no clause in the constitution that can be called eternity or eternal clause. There is no clause in the constitution that can be called belonging to the basic structure doctrine, no clause in the constitution that can be called unamendable. And therefore, if Kenyans want to amend their constitution, they don't need to ask Dr. David Ndii, who was the petition in the High Court all the way, and then they don't need to ask Professor Rosnai, the author of Basic Structure Doctrine, at least that is what was applied by them. They don't need to ask judges. In fact, the court was saying on matters like this, let the people make their decisions. The courts should not try to write into the constitutional text what is not in the constitutional text, not in our constitutional structure and not in our constitutional history. And that was those were the main mistakes in the High Court and Court of Appeal, a problem with constitutional interpretation methodology. Yeah.
So what's the implication of today's ruling on BBI process?
The implication is that Reggea is back. Of course, as you know, the Kenyans are focusing on general elections. But should the process can be kick-started again, there is no barrier to amending the constitution. That is the main message, the simple message. No barrier to amending the constitution of Kenya 2010, as long as, of course, if you want to go through parliament, you go through parliament. If there are some clauses that cannot be amended by parliament, you go through referendum, the way BBI was going through a referendum. Yeah.
So what's the reaction as the proponents of BBI?
I think the only problem is that one regarding the role of the president, but that can be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. I think on that we should read more carefully the decision by Justice Njoki Ndung'u, because she was very methodical and very systematic. She was looking at the text, at the structure, at the history, and who is the president. A president is a person. A president has political rights under Article 38 of the Constitution, like anybody else. And these are not removed by any clause of the Constitution. But you know, the other judges were trying to say that that the president should not do this because the president is the president. That was applying logic. In constitutional interpretation, logic is not the most important thing. No, you start with what is the text. Then you say what is ordinary meaning. If we are all individuals, we have political rights. Then you go to structure and then you go to history. So you don't start and add the evidence. You don't go to logic. Yes. That because you are the president, you can't do this. Unless the constitution says you can't do it, it means you can do it. Yes.
So in the likelihood that Honorable Raila Odinga wins the presidency, do you see the process of BBI being reinitiated or started?
The BBI can be reinitiated even now.
Yes.
Yes.
But the timelines
it's only, as we have agreed, it's only because of the election calendar, yes, that now Kenyans are focusing on the general election. But it can be initiated. Yes.
Wakili, there's a bit of a controversy because the proponent, those who are opposing actually the BBI, they're saying that what Kenyans should believe right now is that BBI is dead until after elections. In a nutshell, what should Kenyans believe concerning the BBI?
BBI is alive. The question is a question of timing. And that depends on the promoters and the political formations. How can it die when BSD is dead? But the basic structure doctrine itself is dead. And when the court has found on most of those issues that it was followed the proper procedure. And the court actually didn't even go into the issue of the content of the BBI, by the way. The court said we are not going into the content of the only question they raised was the issue of constituencies. But that constituencies issue, you can follow the appropriate process and still deal with it. Yeah. So BBI is alive. Nobody can stop Reggea in the bathroom, Reggea in the bedroom, Reggea everywhere.
Okay, please,
Reggea in church, Reggea in jail.
Finally, just